Well, hello and welcome to another lightning round. This is actually the final round of Vintage Cube for this season. It was a really good match, so I wanted to play it. Hopefully I can keep up with the pace. I'm playing a blue-black control deck, pretty hard control, and I didn't get a great deck. I didn't get any power, and I didn't get too many lands. I was flashing exactly one Mox Pearl for path because I was really desperate for cards. Actually, now that I think about it, it was pretty woeful deck. So I lead off with Hinted Tirak on the draw, and my opponent gets to exhume the Scarab God that they discarded. So an early Scarab God on turn 3, going into turn 4 with 4 mana up to activate its ability. But of course, they don't have any creatures in the bin, so they use Pack Rats, and Pack Rats is pretty strong here because they can. It's hard for me to kill it because then my opponent will just reanimate it. If I use GT here to kill it, the opponent can just invest their mana into Scarab God and pretty easily race me. And it's also good because it discards cards, so they can discard a fatty and reanimate it, or just discard any sort of creature and make it a 4/4, and it'll probably be good enough. I like to go GT to try to get a bit of a race on. My opponent entombs Grizzlebrand, and they get to go Entomb and then Scarab God. It's only a 4/4, so they only gain 4 life. But they will get to pay 7, draw 7. It's taken 2 damage, and I get to GT to finish off the Grizzlebrand. Of course, it exiles, so it's done forever. Oh, actually, I like to Toxic Deluge instead, just for a little bit of tempo. Get rid of the Pack Rats, make my opponent have to recast the Scarab God. But of course, I'm only on 3 life here, so it's not looking good. And my opponent's got a lot of mana now and 8 cards in hand. They Mesmeric Fiend. Mesmeric Fiend into Scarab God's pretty good there, reconsolidating the wall position they had before and attacking my hand. I get to go Ophiomancer, and we're just going to see how we do with GT. We've got 4 counters on it, which isn't too bad at all. And the Death Toucher can hold out for a long, long time. My opponent, despite playing what is clearly some sort of reanimate strategy, has been able to get a lot of cards in the bin. Maybe we just didn't really have the time, but I guess they've got enough mana to now start playing their cards. So against this board state, I'm on 3 life, and my opponent's got a flyer here. So it's not looking good, but this really shows the power of GT. We're going to go equip to the Snake token. It's got Death Touch, so there's no real great blocks. I could have pinged the Mesmeric Fiend before combat, but I'm okay with the trade. I get to Liliana here, and I also get to Porcelain Legionnaire, so it's okay. And I could play Porcelain Legionnaire, but instead I'm just going to re-equip. Really going to rely on those G-Day counters to get me there. So we've got 6 counters on the GT now, which is enough to kill the Consecrated Sphinx. I've upticked on the Douthie Voidwalker, and it's elected to swing, so I only need 1 more ping to get rid of the Douthie. So I do elect to ping it, and then ping 1 off the Consecrated Sphinx so that it can't lethal my Liliana Last Hope. So Lily goes to 1 instead of killing the Consecrated Sphinx, and I think that's okay. My opponent's got so many cards already and so much card advantage. I think it's not the end of the world to leave the Consecrated Sphinx around. If I kill it, my opponent can just reanimate it for 4 mana anyway. They reanimate Mesmeric Fiend and take my Porcelain Legionnaire. And I don't mind just having the Lily out just for a little bit longer, because the uptick on the Liliana Last Hope works quite well with the GT. I can kill some pretty tough creatures here. I do make a minor misplay here by tapping my Mox Pearl, and I actually wouldn't mind the Pearl because I've got Porcelain Legionnaire and I can save 2 life if I tapped Pearl. So that was a bit of a mistake. I go down to 1 life, and to be honest, when we're talking this much, this tight a game, it's actually pretty relevant. My opponent, Living Deaths, I like to ping my own Porcelain Legionnaire so it goes to the graveyard and then reanimates off the Living Death. For a little while there, it was looking like I was stabilizing, right? I'd somehow managed to beat off my opponent's board, but the Living Death just brings it all back again. And now I don't have any GT counters. Custody Lich is a pretty good draw. I get to go sacrifice on my opponent, and I get to equip to GT and do it all over again. And my opponent just concedes there, which I found really bizarre because if I hadn't made that misplay, I'd be on 3, and then I get to GT to gain another 4, and I could just equip GT there to Porcelain Legionnaire or something, and and gain 4 life. Or I can't equip the snake and swing, so I have to equip and swing and sacrifice the Legionnaire just to stabilize, and then they get to kill Lily or pressure my life total. In fact, I think they've just got lethal on board with Douthie Voidwalker, but anyway, they elected to concede, so I'll take the game. Just thinking more on that last one, it was a pretty exhausting match. It took a long time. You see, I've got 19 and a half minutes left. My opponent's got 13 and a half minutes left. It really taxed them emotionally, I think. They struggled to... I think they're in such a dominating position, and seeing me come back again relentlessly after being in such a poor position, I think it got to them a bit. And here my opponent's gone Vamp Tutor into Putrid Imp into Reanimate straight away, which is pretty strong. I make a misplay here. I go to my draw step. I should have made a stop in my untap. It wasn't really a decision-making issue. It was just a sort of clickety-clack issue where I didn't set the stop on my upkeep correctly. But certainly I wanted to upkeep and path to prevent my opponent from drawing 2. But I've got such an aggressive start here, and that's one thing. Against the Reanimate strategies, the card itself, Reanimate, as early as that is, and as powerful as it is, it does cost life, and I've elected to have Bloodghast and the Scrap Heap Scrounger, which are both really, really aggressive cards. They can't block, actually. So I feel like my opponent maybe should have been swinging with the Rotting Regisaur, because it's such a big, heavy hitter, that can kill me by itself in 3 turns and probably kill me in 2 turns by going swing with a few others and win the race. Although I understand they're on a very low life total, the Putrid Imp can actually block. I get to go Shark Typhoon, trade off with Mesmeric Fiend to get my card back, and now I get to go swing. I'm hoping my opponent will block with Regisaur, because I'm going to sweep the whole board anyway, and it will save me a little bit of life, but they don't. That's okay. I pay 6 life and sweep the board, and of course if I hit my land drop, which I just have, I get Bloodghast back, and he's got haste as well, so I get to swing there, and my opponent concedes. So game 2 with this mediocre deck, it's a pretty good starting hand, I'm going to say. So my opponent's on the draw. As I said, I didn't get too many lands and I didn't get much power. And to be honest, I have no sideboard either. I was struggling just to make the cut with cards. So I ended up playing Path to Exile off colour just with Mox and one other white card, one of the cycle lands. But right here, I do have an Underground Sea in my deck, so I've got pretty perfect mana here. Porcelain Legionnaire is a really phenomenal one just to play out right off the top, and it's decent against the pack rats because they can swing in here as 3/3s and my first striker will get them, but my opponent exhumes and I don't bother really playing it out. So game 2 of match 2, I'm on the play. It's an okay hand. Hymn to Turak, I mean, I guess on one hand it interacts with my opponent and they're on a sort of combo deck. So interacting with a combo deck is always really good. But specifically Hymn to Turak, as you saw in game 1, match 1, if you hit one of their big fatties, you're doing their job for them. I sort of get lucky there. Phyrexian Metamorph is a good hit. I'm happy with that. And my opponent gets to go Grief on turn 2 after Dark Ritual, which is really, really good. I don't have much else to do here besides Remand. I could strip mine, but not really interested in that. I'd rather just stall out until we get to Treachery. And of course, I'm trying to build my mana up. Remand here, I mean, they were going to take it anyway, that or Treachery, so I might as well use it. I get to go Porcelain Legionnaire, maybe win the race. I mean, I'm not going to win this race, but at least I can start pressuring the race. A 3/3 first striker versus a 3/3 menace. They take Toxic Deluge, which I expected, but to be honest with you, I'm okay with that because really I just want to build to this Treachery, and I'm going to use the Treachery because their clock's actually pretty good, swinging for a turn. They snuff out, so, even still I'm glad I Treacheried, and here I make a minor misplay. I forget that I've got Woe Strider in the bin, and I like to untap and strip mine. I probably should have cast Woe Strider, but they missed their land drop, so it's not the end of the world to strip mine. If I'd known about the Woe Strider, I would have done it, but in hindsight, it wasn't too bad. You can just see having a 5/4 out here would have been really, really strong. I don't forget it this turn though, and I get to go Woe Strider. And Woe Strider is a big girl, and swinging in with a menace creature here is quite strong. And it also prevents my opponent from being able to bounce their Grief because I can sacrifice it to the Woe Strider. They got Spellseeker and searched up Demonic Tutor, and then Demonic Tutored searching for something. So it feels pretty bad from my position, but to be very honest with you, they've spent a lot of mana, invested a lot of mana into whatever they're going to cast off this Demonic Tutor. It's a Demonic Tutor. Whatever they got, it cost them 5 extra mana, split up over 3 turns, and all they got was a 1/1 out of it. They trade off the cards, and now I'm kind of scared of Living Death, because the menace creature that they traded with is of course theirs, and I've got no creatures in my bin, so they would just flat get it. They fractured Identity of the Woe Strider. Woe Strider can't sacrifice to itself, so that wasn't a misplay. This is an interesting one. I like to swing, and then I Mystic Confluence, bouncing the Woe Strider and drawing 2 cards. Of course, it's a token, so they don't get the card back into their hand. And because I swing this 0/1, I get to Charter Course, drawing 2 cards. So that was a cool little maneuver. I was happy to play. My opponent didn't have any cards in hand, so I was happy to play. The Mystic Confluence around counter spells. They can only search for Shallow Grave. At first, I thought that was a weird get off the Spellseeker. They searched up Shallow Grave. I thought, oh, surely you get something better than that because you're Shallow Graving the Mesmeric Fiend. Or I thought maybe they didn't quite read Shallow Grave. But you'll see later, I think they just literally don't have the cards in their deck. So game 3 now. We lost game 1 to a very fast reanimate combo, and we won game 2. And I chose to mulligan that hand, and this hand's a lot better. It's not amazing, but hey, we've got a turn 1 remand and a turn 2 Sedgemoor Witch, so I'll take it. I play out the Mox Pearl, of course, to keep up remand, especially against my opponent's more combo-y deck, but ideally I'd like to have Sedgemoor Witch out and then remand. But this is a really nice one to remand, because I sort of 2-4 my opponent because they invested a Dark Ritual into it. And of course they can 0 the Menace creature or play it later, but I still get that 2-for-1. Now that's an interesting decision, because playing Sedgemoor Witch there is actually quite strong. I like to get a creature out, start attacking the life total, then I get to Charter Course and build my mana, but it was a really key decision. Obviously this is a fast-paced style of commentating, but that was I don't think I tanked on it super long, but that was a very key decision. I like to go for Ashiok and see if I can mill my opponent out, or I guess steal their cards, and then go from there. Now I get to blow my opponent out here because they swing, I block, they create another Pack Rat, hoping to trade with the Sedgemoor Witch, but I path to exile the second Pack Rat token, which turns the first Pack Rat into a 1/1, so I get a clean trade. So with one path I get to kill both the Pack Rats, but my opponent did discard an Archon of Cruelty, so I'm kind of nervous about that. At least I've got a 1/1 off the Sedgemoor Witch to sacrifice to the Archon, and maybe I can keep pushing in with Ashiok there, and push my advantage and mill them out before the Archon kills me. But they didn't actually have a reanimate for Archon. I get the Charter Course now, make another 1/1, and followed up with a Porcelain Legionnaire. So I've really got the board presence locked down. My opponent plays Consecrated Sphinx, which is a really good one since they've only got 2 cards in hand. It's bigger than everything I've got on my board. They've got too much of a life total that I can't really Alpha Strike into it and finish them off. It flies over the top to kill the Ashiok if they need, so it's a really, really good draw for them. I did get to swing with Menace. My opponent finally cast that Hardcast Grief. I'm still going up with the Ashiok. Ashiok's got Fallen Shinobi, which is kind of tempting, and they take me down to 7 here, and I'm in the tank on this one for a long time, because it doesn't reflect in this replay style, but I was in the tank here for a very long time, thinking about how I want to swing, and I do elect to Alpha Strike. I'm hoping my opponent will block as they did and chump with the Spellseeker, because what they got at the Spellseeker was Shallow Grave, and I was really scared they were going to Shallow Grave Archon. So I was having a tank about how that works with the Archon, but they made a big mistake by blocking with the Spellseeker, so that's what they're going to Shallow Grave in. So they get to Phyrexian Metamorph, the Consecrated Sphinx, but it's okay because they've kept my Ashiok alive 1 turn too long by making that misplay. So I've gotten to go up, and you can see they've only got 2 cards left in their deck, so they can't even draw with the Consecrated Sphinx. I get to swing here. I lose my Porcelain Legionnaire, but I've got them down to 3 life, and I've got a Shark Typhoon here to chump block, and Ashiok will finish them off. So Necromancy, they can't Necromancy Archon here, interestingly, because it will draw, and they'll lose the game in the next turn. So they need to swing me down 7, and then swing me again. But I've got Shark Typhoon here as a 5/5 to block the one that's swinging at Ashiok. and Ashiok can do the final bit of exile to win me the game by them milling out. So it was a very, very tight match. As I said, my opponent made that critical mistake. I don't think I would have flat lost if they didn't make that mistake. I was definitely in a losing position, but I don't think I would have flat lost. They could kill the Ashiok, but then I had actually a fair bit of game to swing back and try to race them in the end. But it didn't matter. I got there only just barely. So game 1 of match 3. This hand's pretty woeful, and looking at it now, I'm surprised I kept it, to be honest. My land base is pretty poor, so maybe I was just happy to see that Marsh Flats in the opening hand. I get rewarded there with another land, but even then, turn 3 Woe Strider is anything you're doing, or is the first thing you're doing, I should say, isn't amazing. I like to play Woe Strider instead of keeping up Remand because my opponent's just going to keep valuing off that Oracle of Muldiah. If I keep up Remand, I don't want to be in a counterspell position. I want to put a little bit of pressure on the board. They get 2 lands off the top with the Oracle, so that's 2 draws and a ramp, which is pretty strong. And they're just sort of popping off here with plenty of creatures on the board and plenty of mana. Sylvan Library, very, very good with Oracle, obviously, because you can keep the lands on top and then play them off with Oracle of Muldiah, so it's a very strong. Hoping they block with something there, but they don't. I don't have much choice other than to throw out a Remand, because I've seen their... it's probably a bit too quick for you guys, but I've been keeping track of what's on the top of their library with the Oracle, and I've seen cards like Khan and Finale of Devastation, so I know they've got some really good stuff. I basically have to remand this because I'm trying to dig to sort of Toxic Deluge or something, but they do get to recast the Tameo, and they got to flip the Nissa as well. And there you can see Finale of Devastation, so I'm pretty terrified about that. I want a Lillian up on the Findhorn Elf, but I just flat died to Finale of Devastation for Crater Hoof or something like that. Finale actually gives haste, so basically any creature is going to be lethal. So I have to keep up Venser for Finale. My opponent plays Woodfall Primus, which, I'm going to lose the game to that anyway, so I might as well Venser and bounce it. Ophiomancer is a cool card, but it's not hard hitting enough that I can sort of... It's not impactful enough that I can do any real damage with it. I don't have much of a choice here, so I think I choose to Gush. I'm getting pretty desperate here. In hindsight, there's probably not a lot I can really do. I think the best draw I could hope for is probably Mox Pearl here. I do uptick with the Lily, and I play Scrap Heap Scrounger, and my opponent's been losing a bit of life. They've actually been taking a few losses off the Mana Crypt. I like to swing at the Tameo so that it can't neg 7 specifically, otherwise I'd be going for the face. They lose off Mana Crypt one more turn, and I'm thinking, have I got a chance here? Because they make 10-10, +10/+10 with the Finale, but that actually doesn't give trample, so I can chump block with a goat, and I can chump block with, this Ophiomancer snake token. It's not looking too bad. They've only got one trampler in the form of Woodfall Primus, and I get to uptick with Lily. And then I had a slight moment of hope before I realised that Garruk -4 gives all their guys +3/+3, and most importantly gives it trample. And so now I'm just hoping my opponent doesn't see that line, doesn't realise the trample, or just assumes that they've got enough damage there. But they certainly have enough. And if you look at my life total here, I go from 19 life to -50, and that's game 2 of match 3. I can turn that off. That's cool. I just realised, so I can look at the exiles while I'm in this mode. That's interesting. I get rewarded there with a black land off the top to him to 2x straight away, which I'm happy with. And once again, I like to go Ashiok instead of the Sedgemoor Witch play. And that's a really, really important decision again. But I think Ashiok's an absolute first picker. Unless you're picking up power, it's really, really a reason to go in black-blue. It's really super strong in this format. You can mill your opponents out. So I go Wall of Roots to give me a ramp to Treachery the Hex Drinker, because otherwise Hex Drinker is just going to be an 8-leveled 6/6, and I'm going to be struggling to beat it. I'm not going to be able to beat it, so I basically have to Treachery it right there, right now, which is why I neg Ashiok. Generally, I'll just up Ashiok forever. Hardly ever neg and create creatures, but in this instance, I choose to, and I go level here, and then I realized if I keep leveling, because that was my plan, make a 6/6, kill them in 2 turns when they're on 12, but I realized protection from everything gives it protection from blue, so the treachery will fall off and my opponent will get it back. So I quickly stopped and I play Sedgemoor Witch, thank God, and I've still got a bit of game here because I've got some really, really strong creatures out. The Menace is really good. The Woe Strider also is nice and big, so I'm pretty happy about it. My opponent Ulamog's taking the Treachery, yuck, but I do get to sacrifice it to Woe Strider, which was cool. So they basically just kill the Hex Drinker off the top, and I feel like I've actually got a bit of game here because Ulamog is Annihilator 4, and I feel like with the Menace I should be able to swing and race, but I do a bit of scrying there because I want to hit a land to Khan. I did see GT and I tanked on GT for a while because I thought GT is probably strong enough that I can win if I equip to like the Sedgemoor and swing. I should be able to get there, but I scry 2 to the bottom and I end up finding Khan to exile the Ulamog, and that's strong enough obviously. It's not quite lethal here. Technically they can block, but the game's just about done, isn't it? My opponent taps out there. And game 3, match 3 here, and this is a pretty mediocre hand, but look, at least I can kind of curve. I can play a 2-drop and then I can play a 4-drop and then a 5-drop, and Bloodghast, Treachery and Opposition all work quite well together. Really hoping for like a 3-drop there. I find Remand, which helps my ability to find a 3-drop, and I find a Porcelain Legionnaire, which I'll take. I'd rather sort of be discarding the Bloodghast to some ability and then reanimating it back. So this is the occasion where I actually choose to play the creature instead of the Ashiok on turn 3, and that's simply because Opposition's so strong, arguably even stronger than Ashiok. And this is, spoilers aside, this is going to be an Opposition game, but it does go down to the wire. It's such an exciting match, why I wanted to show it to you guys. My opponent has got Oracle of Muldiah, and that's stressing me out. The other thing stressing me out is Hex Drinker, which when leveled to the max will be able to eventually get around the Opposition. I choose to stop the Oracle because Opposition is such a slow card. It works over so many turns that my opponent's going to get value out of the Oracle on ramp, and I'm trying to cut them off on mana. So I choose to get the Oracle for myself because I just trust in that Opposition. I trust that it's slow grind, but over time I'll win. I do get to also play the Bloodghast out, and things are happening pretty quick, but essentially I'm just oppositioning my opponent. They unfortunately don't have enough mana to get to 8/8 there, and I get to tap it down before they swing. They get to attack the Ashiok, but it's not enough. I play Sedgemoor Witch, which I'm happy with because, hey, it's just another creature, and if I can cast an instant or sorcery, I'll make even more 1/1s. My opponent can still just level the Hex Drinker, though, and eventually kill me. I can't tap down all their lands and their creatures. I'm just a few creatures short, which is kind of annoying. They Worldly Tutor for a Sylvan Character, which is actually pretty good because there's a 0/3 and I've got some 2/2s out and it's hexproof, so I can't tap it. So it's actually a really, really good option. I tap this thing in the end step. It doesn't matter too much. Collective Brutality there is phenomenal because it gives me a 1/1 and it gets rid of one of their creatures. I realise I've got to start attacking because very soon my opponent's going to level up, and they do. So they level to 8, but I get a tap in before they get the protection from everything. But I really do need to kill them because they're going to kill me in 3 turns. But you can see the benefit of Opposition where eventually you start pulling ahead. I elect to neg on Ashiok here, I think, to make a Magus. I'm going to swing in with the Menace first. So yeah, I neg 4 on Ashiok, making a 3/3. I really just want some random idiot creature. So I'm tapping out my opponent's lands here. I might as well. I can tap the Wall of Roots in my turn because I know I've got Woe Strider on top, so I can cast the Woe Strider and then tap with it. It's actually kind of works like Smuggler's Cop to Opposition a lot of the time, where you get value out of the creatures that you play that don't have haste because you can use their ability straight away that gives them this new ability to tap. So you see this Woe Strider here is able to now tap and actively swing out, and I've got exactly 11 damage. I think I would have got there anyway because I can tap down all my opponent's creatures except Hex Drinker. They can take me to 1 and I can swing out, but I do get them there down to 0, and boy oh boy, that was a tight match. Thanks heaps for watching, guys. I'm Beckett Wolfe from Adelaide Eternal, and this was another one of my lightning rounds, and this was the last one of the season. I finished this match with only a couple hours left to go in the in the Vintage Cube League, and I think we finished with 31 trophies, and I finished about 9th overall, so very happy with that result. Thanks heaps for following, guys.